I've got 7.2.
I've got 6.6.
Well, I'm closer. Henry, come towards me.
I have 7.2.
I got 7.8. We're getting closer, Henry.
I just got 8.
Well, Higgins, I do believe we have located our quarry.
More accurate to say that I've located you. Well, sir, given that we started 4 blocks apart, then I'd say this has been a success, gentlemen. Well done.
Sir, if you don't mind my asking,
Careful.
how does this trackizer work?
Well, it isn't called a trackizer, Henry, because there's no such word as track eyes, right? As the wearer walks, a magnet slides back and forth inside of a wire coil, inducing an electrical current. That current is then converted to voltage. You know what voltage is, right, Henry?
It's about volts.
Right. Now, as the voltage increases on either side of this gap, the pressure builds and builds and builds until a tiny spark.
Sir, I was wondering what happens when our quarry stops moving.
Well, then the transmission ends until movement resumes.
Right, so what happens if they've arrived but we're still a block away?
That could be a problem. Well, that would necessitate a third receiver unit in order to triangulate the... Oh, Henry. Detective Murdoch. Has Dr. Ogden been notified?
The caller didn't actually find the bodies, sir.
Why are we calling this a murder?
There was evidence at the crime scene, apparently.
Crime scene.
That's what she called it.
She, who is this she?
Sir, she wouldn't say, but she knows you.
Freddie Pink.
Hello, William.
I understand you believe this to be the scene of a crime.
I do. I was hired to deliver a letter to the occupant of his apartment, a man named James Smith.
Do you know this Mr. Smith?
I've never met him. I don't even know what he looks like.
Then how is it you come to be inside of his apartment?
I suspected that he was at home, but not answering his door.
You broke in.
If I hadn't, I wouldn't have found this. It's blood.
Then from that you inferred murder?
No. From this. And it's not just there. It's under the table and over there by the chair.
George, may I have my ultraviolet light, please? Thank you.
Looks like a murder to me.
All right, George, speak with the neighbors, see if anyone heard or saw anything suspicious.
Sir.
Body appears to have been dragged over to the window.
And dumped out?
He did so rather unceremoniously.
Or she. They moved in about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks.
Who's they?
James and JJ.
Who's JJ?
James Jr.
How old is he?
Around 5. I look after him when his dad goes out.
Where's JJ now?
I don't know. What's going on?
I'm not exactly sure yet. Ma'am, did you see anything unusual last night?
He had a visitor. Quite late, as I recall.
Is that right? Can you describe them?
Oh, was it her? I received a request to locate James Robert Smith and deliver a letter.
Who made this request?
A man named Kenneth Spokes.
How well did you know Mr. Spokes?
I've never met him. But this is what I was to deliver. It's blank.
A ruse, it would seem.
You think Mr. Spokes wanted me to locate James Smith so that he could kill him?
Did you inform him where Mr. Smith lived?
No, but he could have followed me.
Detective?
George, what have you?
Sir, I spoke to several of the neighbors. None of them remember hearing anything unusual. Mr. Smith went to O'Donnell's pub at 8 o'clock, returned about 8:30, which I thought was strange. Hardly enough time to throw back a pint.
Agreed.
Beyond that, then he collected his son.
His son?
I'm afraid so. James Jr., age 5. We're looking, but no sign of him yet.
Did anyone see them after that?
Apparently, sir, he had a visitor at about 10 o'clock. A woman, apparently.
That would have been me. I knocked, but he wasn't home, so I left.
My witness says that the woman entered the apartment.
I entered briefly, just long enough to ascertain that he wasn't home.
You broke in.
Is this going to be a problem?
George, were there any finger marks on the doorknob?
Yes, sir. Higgins is analyzing them now.
Anything else?
I did find this, his birth certificate.
Right, see what you can find out about him.
Sir.
Did you know he had a son?
No.
I wonder what's become of him.
Sir,
Henry, what have you?
we've identified a set of finger marks from the doorknob.
And to whom did they belong?
Just Miss Pink, sir.
What about the Smiths?
We only found one set.
The killer must have wiped down the finger marks on his way out.
Then when I returned this morning...
Anything else, Henry?
Well, turns out we were keeping a file on a James Smith, sir. Only one item. It's an incident report from a couple of months ago.
Who took that report?
Mr. Smith's mother came in looking for him, sir. She was wondering if we'd put him in jail.
In jail?
That was the only explanation she would accept as to why he didn't send her flowers on her birthday.
And you started a file for him.
Well, sir, I figured if his mother considered him the jailbird type, he might well be.
All right, bring her in.
Sir, that woman is not the victim's mother.
How do you know that?
Because the James Robert Smith for whom this birth certificate was issued died 30 years ago at the age of 8 months. Whoever was living in that apartment, it wasn't he.
He must have assumed a false identity for a reason.
Perhaps that reason caught up with him.
Now, you say he was at the tavern last night.
Yes, sir. O'Donnell's on Queen Street.
Find out why he only stayed for half an hour.
Sir.
Round back and down the stairs. James Smith? Yeah, he drinks here.
Are you sure we're talking about the same James Smith? It's not an uncommon name.
Lives up on Sackville Street.
That's right.
Yeah.
Was he drinking here last night?
In some kind of trouble?
Just answer the question, sir.
A woman came in here, made eyeballs at him. He didn't welcome the attention.
A dolly mop?
No, nothing like that. She was some kind of private investigator.
So is this what you do all day? Sit in your office and let your constables do your work for you?
One of the benefits of my position.
Sir?
There you go.
What have you, George?
It's something I have to show you, sir. Sir, the man who refers to himself as James Smith was at O'Donnell's last night.
Yes?
Actually, sir, could we establish a convention right here whereby we refer to the man who referred to himself as James Smith simply as James Smith?
Yes, of course, George.
Right. And then if we ever have cause to refer to the original James Smith, we'll call him...
The original James Smith?
Excellent.
George, what is it you needed to show me?
Sir, I wanted to speak to you privately. James Smith was at O'Donnell's last night. Sir, Miss Pink was there at the same time.
She was. Did they speak to one another?
No, sir, but apparently she made eyeballs, I think. I remember her saying unequivocally that she'd never met the man.
Yes, she did say that.
Anyway, I wasn't sure if she should know that we know.
No, you did the right thing. George, go to her office and see if you can find anything that pertains to James Smith.
Sir.
I wasn't lying, if that's what you're thinking.
You said you'd never seen him.
I didn't know that man was James Smith.
The bartender said you were staring at him.
I wasn't. I don't stare. Staring is obvious. I'm a professional.
You were looking at him.
I thought he might be a client. I received a call from a telephone exchange. A man asked to meet with me at O'Donnell's at 8 o'clock.
Are you in the habit of meeting strangers in taverns?
Meeting with clients in taverns comprises a good part of my business.
Who was this client?
I don't know. He never showed up. Believe me, if I had known that man was James Smith, I would have delivered the letter right then and there and saved myself a lot of bother.
Sir, we found these in Miss Pink's office. She had them filed under James Smith. I've shown them to several of Mr. Smith's neighbors. They all positively identified him. Sir, she not only knew who he was...
She was following him.
Sir, she could be our killer.
So it's to be a formal interview. Am I a suspect?
Did you take these photographs?
No, I did not.
Do you know who that is?
Should I?
Please, answer the question, Miss Pink.
Miss Pink, is it? Very well, detective. It's James Smith.
So you do know what he looks like?
He's the man I saw at O'Donnell's. The man you said was Smith. We've been over this.
You've never seen these photographs before?
No. Why?
Because they were found in your files.
You went into my office. You went through my files?
I needed to know the truth.
And I've answered you truthfully. I've done nothing wrong. You, on the other hand, have breached the confidentiality I swore to my clients.
So you don't know how they ended up in your files. What's your explanation, then?
Well, clearly everything I've told you is a lie. I've been secretly following James Smith, or whoever he is. And after going to considerable effort to leave a trail of evidence pointing to me, I killed him and kidnapped his son. Or, who knows, maybe I killed the son, too. I have no motive for any of this, but then maybe I do this sort of thing for sport. Or maybe, possibly, there is the tiniest chance that the killer took these photos and left them in my office.
And the killer being?
The man who hired me to find Smith.
Kenneth Spokes.
We know he arranged for me to be at the scene of the crime.
So it's your assertion, then, that Spokes waited for you to find Mr. Smith, then took photographs of him and his son, then planted those photographs in your files to make it appear as though you had been following James Smith.
Is that so hard to believe?
And you were in that apartment the first time?
2 days ago, Thursday afternoon.
The earliest that these photographs could have been taken was Thursday afternoon.
If you need to walk through every step, then yes.
There are tulips in this photo. Tulip season has been over for weeks. A witness saw you go into the apartment, yet no one saw you come out.
So you're suggesting what? I waited inside, killed him when he returned, disposed of the body?
Where did you spend the night?
I don't have an alibi, Detective. If I had realized that I would need one, I would have arranged it.
Excuse me.
Freddie Pink?
She was at the scene and has no alibi.
William, we're talking about Freddie.
She is at the center of this and has not been forthcoming.
She's a private investigator. They're rarely forthcoming.
Sir, the Bank of Montreal on King Street has an account for a James Robert Smith. I was going to go by and get the details.
Very good. Thank you, George.
So before we continue, am I correct in assuming I am the primary suspect in the murder of James Smith?
Yes.
Bearing in mind that we don't know it's a murder, seeing as there's no body. But let's not quibble over trifles.
Convince me otherwise.
All right. Assuming I killed this man, why would I call you?
There were witnesses. You may have left evidence inside. Far safer for you to insert yourself directly into the investigation, possibly control it.
If it were my intention to deflect suspicion, why would I point out that the killer was likely a woman?
You would have anticipated that I would come to the same conclusion. In fact, that's precisely the logic a smart woman such as yourself would employ.
If I'm so smart, do you not think me capable of anticipating your response? Why would I embark on such a doomed strategy unless I were, in fact, innocent? Or are you suggesting that I anticipated your response to my response to your response? In which case...
I understand. We're in a recursive loop.
Infinite regress, actually. Why not just stab him in a dark alley and throw the knife in the lake? And why would I take his son? I don't even like children. Come on, Detective. There must be some way I can convince you that I'm telling the truth. So this is the famous truthizer.
Constable Crabtree calls it a truthizer. I prefer autonomic response indicator.
How does it work?
When a person lies, the body responds, as if to stress. An increase in heart rate, sweating, etc. Responses that are controlled only by the subconscious mind.
How accurate is it?
Well, it can't prove your guilt, if that's what you're asking.
Can it prove innocence?
Possibly.
Alrighty then. Truthize me.
Who is James Robert Smith?
I don't know.
Did you take these photographs?
I did not.
Had you ever seen this man prior to yesterday?
No. Maybe your machine's not working.
It's possible it isn't calibrated correctly. Tell me a deliberate lie.
I killed James Smith and kidnapped his son. Looks like that's a lie.
So you'll release her?
She answered the questions truthfully. George, what have you?
Sir, the bank account for James Robert Smith was opened May 18th in Montreal.
Montreal.
$1,500 was deposited, then transferred to Toronto.
By whom?
Joe Murphy. I was wondering if that might be Mr. Smith's real name.
You think Joe Murphy changed his name to James Smith and moved to Toronto?
It's a thought.
That's a good one, George. See what you can find out about this Joe Murphy.
Sir.
Freddie Pink is from Montreal.
A lot of people are from Montreal.
Yes, but she only moved here last summer, and she alluded to some kind of trouble there. Julia, do you think it's possible for a skilled liar to fool my machine?
Gurus from India are able to control their heart rate, so I suppose it's possible.
So surprise would be key.
Am I not to be released?
Very shortly. Just a few more questions.
Ask away.
Who is Joe Murphy?
I haven't even answered.
What happened last May 18th in Montreal?
I don't remember.
Why did you leave Montreal?
I was running from a jealous lover.
Well, that's a lie. Tell the truth. Who is Joe Murphy?
I don't know.
Miss Pink?
I don't want to play anymore. I've answered enough questions.
No, I don't believe you have.
I have a right to silence. Please instruct a constable to escort me to my cell.
Very well.
Detective? I just spoke to the police in Montreal. Joe Murphy is well known to them, sir. In fact, the entire Murphy clan, their mother is the notorious Ma Murphy.
I've never heard of her.
Oh, thank God, sir. Neither did I. I didn't let them know that.
Why did Joe Murphy leave Montreal?
Well, sir, he's suspected of killing his wife, Molly. Apparently, Molly found out about Joe's criminal activity and threatened to notify the police unless he granted her a divorce.
How do the police know this?
Well, Molly's best friend, sir, notified the police. But, of course, by that time, Joe was in Toronto living under an assumed name.
And the name of her best friend?
Freddie Pink, sir. According to police, she harassed the Murphys. So much so that at one point, she tells police they threatened to have her killed. I suspect that's why she left Montreal. In any case, Montreal police are sending the files over. They're happy to see this wrapped up. I'm sorry, sir. I know how this looks.
So, she came to Toronto, sought out Joe Murphy, learned of his new identity, and exacted her revenge. But what of the young boy? What did she do with him?
Sir, I think the question is, what does she intend to do with him? Jackson found this. It's a letter from the French government. Confirmation of the receipt of a visa application.
For a Doris Walmer.
Traveling with her son, James, age 5.
So you've been in my room, too. Is there any part of my private domain you haven't trespassed upon?
Who is Doris Walmer?
There is no Doris Walmer.
So that visa is for you?
Me? Oh, I see. You think I'm planning to flee the country with a little boy I've got stashed in a suitcase somewhere. It's for a client.
What client?
Do you really think I'd tell you?
Do you often obtain false visas for your clients?
Just the ones who are terrified that their husbands will kill them.
Like Joe Murphy killed your friend Molly.
Come to bed, man.
Yes, just a moment.
Do you think she did it?
She lied. Repeatedly, about everything. How could she not think that I would get to the bottom of it?
Well, either she underestimated you, or you're not at the bottom of it yet. Now come to bed.
My God, that's a tremendous amount of blood. By the looks of it, Henry, I would say he slit her throat.
They ever find her body?
No, he likely dumped it in the river.
Well, if that's the crime scene that Freddie Pink found, I don't blame her for doing him in.
Let's just say the world is no worse for the loss of a brute like Joe Murphy. Though he does look different, without his beard and his hat. I've always thought, Higgins, that a man should have to wear his hat in his mugshot. To me, that's the first thing I notice about somebody, is their hat. It's like a signature.
Gentlemen,
Sir.
is this the crate from Montreal?
Yes, sir. Just sorting through them now.
There's a Mary Murphy.
Mary Murphy. That's Ma. Higgins, that's Ma Murphy. She's notorious.
For what?
For crime in general and meanness. She's very mean. She's... Good Lord. She's Mrs. Smith.
Who?
Sorry, the woman who assumed her son was in jail because she forgot her birthday.
Well, her son must be Joe Murphy, then.
We have an address for her.
Bring her in.
Sir.
Come in, come in. Please, have a seat, Mrs. Smith. Or would you prefer I address you as Ma Murphy?
Is this about my son, Joe?
Yes, it is.
Is he dead?
Why would you say that?
Because I have a right to know. Is he dead or isn't he?
We haven't found a body as yet, but I suspect...
I know who killed him.
Who might that be?
I don't know her name, but she had it in for my Joe. She thought he killed his wife.
He did kill his wife.
That's a lie. His wife ran off.
Your son fled to Toronto under an assumed name. You came here looking for him under that name because you know what he did.
And what of it? He's dead now, so what does it matter?
This woman you claim killed your son. Would you recognize her?
That's her.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. That will be...
I know you killed my son. I know why. Tell us where the child is, and you will be forgiven. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Get her out of here. Get out!
All right, Mrs. Murphy. Thank you. That will be all, Mrs. Murphy. She's a grieving mother.
She's not grieving.
How can you say that?
Have you found a body?
No.
You won't. Because Joe Murphy is not dead. He saw me in the bar. He knew I was following him. So he decided to fake his murder and have me hang for it.
So you admit that you were following him?
You want a confession? Here's my confession. I lied.
Why?
Why do you think? I knew how it would look. I miscalculated.
All right. Why did you go to his apartment?
I needed to know it was him. I still wasn't sure.
And the blood on the floor?
Animal blood? Easy to obtain, fully convincing. Even I thought someone killed him. I understand your skepticism. I didn't kill him, William. So either someone else did, or he faked it. Isn't there some way to tell whether the blood is animal or human?
Do you believe her?
At this point, I don't know what to believe. It's as credible as the theory that Freddie Pink is the killer. Although both theories raise many questions.
Such as?
If Freddie is not the killer, then why did she not think of this theory before now? And if she did think of it before now, why not bring it to me earlier?
And if she is the killer?
Then why provide us with a means of positively determining her theory to be false?
I'm afraid I have bad news in that regard, William. The blood cells are partially decomposed. I can't tell if they had nuclei or not.
And did she deliberately wait until it would be impossible for us to determine whether it was human or animal blood?
That would explain why she didn't tell you about it before.
Perhaps this is all part of a fallback plan.
Initially deny knowing the victim, then if found out, deny that there was a victim.
It would be nearly impossible for us to obtain a conviction without a body, especially if we were unable to disprove this theory.
But William, what if Joe and Molly's son? Where is he? Who's taking care of him?
Perhaps no one?
Freddie Pink would never leave a child on his own.
She might if the alternative was to be hanged. What?
If she does know where he is, that would be the first place she would go if she was let out.
Well, did you prove it was animal blood?
The test was inconclusive. But we did find a bloody shoe mark near the window.
A shoe mark? Really?
It was partial, but the edge is quite distinct. If it matches yours, you'll be charged. If it doesn't...
Which shoe?
Sir, are you sure about this? I mean, should we not just follow her the usual way?
Freddie Pink will expect to be followed, and she'll certainly notice if we follow her in the usual way. This she'll not anticipate.
I take it the shoe mark wasn't a match?
It wasn't.
Whose was it?
I don't know, but it wasn't yours, so you're free to go.
0.7.
Where are you, George?
Sydenham and Reeves Lane.
Henry, where are you?
1.5, Duchess just west of Berkeley.
Constable McNabb.
3.4, Parliament just north of Queen.
She's at Queen, west of Parliament, heading east.
Sir, she hasn't moved in over a minute. Oh, wait, there it is. 0.6.
I've got 1.3, sir. And I've got 2.9. George,
She's in an alleyway northwest of Queen and Sackville.
meet me there.
They signed her? Sir, I saw a carriage pull out of the alley just as we came up.
How would she have known there was going to be a carriage here?
She may have arranged for someone to meet her.
How she's been out of communication since yesterday.
She stopped for roughly a minute at Queen and Sackville. There's a telegraph office there. Henry, go there, see if she stopped in, and if she sent a telegram. Then meet us at Union Station. Sir.
You think she's trying to flee the city, sir?
She applied for a French visa, George. I think she's fleeing the country. I want constables on the platform. Search the train as well. Stop any woman who's traveling with a small boy.
Are we not just looking for Miss Pink, sir?
She could be disguised, George. Ma'am? Excuse me. Miss Pink.
Please, we're late for our train.
Sorry, ma'am.
Detective!
What have you, Henry?
Miss Pink did stop at the telegraph office, sir. She sent a telegram.
What did it say?
Just one word. Go.
Who was it sent to?
That's a thing, sir. Joe Murphy.
Joe Murphy. What was the address?
General delivery at the Temperance Exchange, sir.
Right, Henry, head down there and see if anyone collects that telegram.
Sir. Joe Murphy, sir. I don't understand.
I don't either, George. George, that man walking toward us. I've seen him recently.
Sir, I recognize his hat. I found these in Miss Pink's office.
That's Joe Murphy. Mr. Murphy! Toronto Constabulary. We'd like a word. I believe these photographs are of you.
Believe what you like.
You came to Toronto 1 year ago with your son after murdering his mother. You assumed the identity of one James Smith. No fewer than 5 witnesses have identified this man, you, as James Smith. You then became aware that you were being pursued by a woman who knew of your true identity as Joe Murphy. You then made it appear as though you had been murdered and set her up as the killer.
You can't prove this is me.
Actually, I can. You can grow a beard, but your identifying features remain the same. And in combination, they allow for each face to be identified with mathematical precision. Please don't smile.
What do you mean? It's not him.
The numbers don't lie, Julia. The ratio of the distance between his eyes and the distance between his chin and nose is 1.27 in the mugshot. Here, it's 1.41. Ear to eye versus chin to midpoint, 1.87 versus 1.69.
They're close, William. Perhaps within the margins of error?
I measured very carefully.
So who is he? He's clearly involved in all of this.
Joe Murphy did have a brother, sir.
What was his name?
Adam. He wasn't in the police files, but they both had a son about the same age.
So if Adam was living with his own son under Joe's pseudonym, where's Joe?
Then why would Freddie Pink send him a telegram?
Sir,
Henry, what have you?
I went to the Temperance Exchange.
Did anyone claim Joe Murphy's message?
No, sir, but the telegraph operator who took the message has disappeared. Her name was Doris Walmer, sir.
The woman named in the visa application. Did you get a description?
Red hair, green eyes. Pretty.
Please, we're late for our train.
Sorry, man. Sorry. The woman at Union Station with the boy. That was her.
She could still be on that train, sir.
She's likely well over the border by now.
Miss Pink used the telegram to let her client know to flee.
Yes, but why address it to Joe Murphy?
Perhaps that was the signal. If the telegram was addressed to Joe Murphy, it's actually meant for her.
Then what's the connection between Doris Walmer and Joe Murphy?
What is it, William?
Could Doris Walmer be Molly Murphy?
Sir, Molly Murphy was murdered.
Was a body ever found?
No.
At any rate, we know a murder was committed in Montreal on the 18th of May last year. What if Molly Murphy wasn't the victim?
It was Joe.
But Joe changed his identity. He set up the bank account.
Well, I have no doubt Joe Murphy intended to murder his wife and leave town. But somehow...
She got the upper hand and killed him instead.
So it could have been self-defense.
She would have called her best friend, who would have known exactly what to do.
They buried the body, and then Freddie helped Molly to flee to Toronto with her son.
That's why she was so insistent that it was Joe that killed Molly. She couldn't let anyone find out that Molly was still alive, living in Toronto as Doris Walner.
The Murphys discover what happened. They set up Pink for the murder of James Smith.
But why?
Revenge?
Leverage.
If she was charged with murder, she'd have no choice but to tell the truth about what happened in Montreal and give up Molly and the child.
Tell us where the child is, and you will be forgiven.
She would have understood the message, but she didn't give them up. So what have they done with Freddie?
I was mistaken, Mr. Murphy. You are not Joe. In fact, you are Joe's brother, Adam.
Am I free to go?
You set up Freddie Pink for a murder that never happened.
Never happened? My brother was murdered, Detective, and Freddie Pink is up to her neck in it.
Where is she?
To whom do you refer? The one who killed my brother or her best friend?
Tell me where Miss Pink is, or you will be going to jail.
On what charge? Spilling chicken blood on the floor of my apartment?
Kidnapping.
You have no proof of that.
Tell me where she is.
Sir? Sir. There's something you should see. Sir, I swear I saw it moving.
I believe you, George.
There it is.
Right. Fetch Henry.
Sir.
Where are you, Freddie?
I have 2.4.
Henry, what's your location? Trinity in front. 1.6, sir. And where are you, George?
Wilkinson King.
Constable McNabb, what's your reading? 3.4. Parliament and King. It's Derby Street.
Did you find her? Young Molly? No. I didn't. Found the factory. Didn't find her, though. Maybe she quit. See, I showed them photographs of her, and they never seen her. I told you what I would do if you were lying. I wasn't lying. Careful. I said one finger for every lie. See if you're lying about lying, well, that's another finger. All right. She works at a grocery at Dundas and Broadview. She goes by Mabel. And you go by Pink. Let's start with Pink.
Get away from her.
I only coughed a rabbit, sure, that's no crime.
Kidnapping is a crime.
So is cuffing people.
I'll find her. Even I couldn't find her now. What the hell kept you? I've been tapping my foot for 40 minutes.
How'd you know?
You released me in order to follow me, but you didn't. Then I remembered the ridiculous shoe mark you invented to get my shoe from me. You might also want to consider what you leave on your blackboard. Molly loved Joe. But when she found out he and his family were criminals, she wanted out. More importantly, she wanted her son out.
But Joe wouldn't have that.
He tried to kill her. Molly fought back. She grabbed a knife. It must have hit the carotid artery because there was blood everywhere. From that moment, she was a dead woman unless I helped her. So I did.
So the body was disposed of, but you made it appear as though he killed his wife and then ran away.
A rather elegant solution, I thought.
Until Ma Murphy didn't get her flowers for her birthday. She then realized that her son was dead, and that the blood that was found in the Montreal apartment by the police was in fact his, and not his wife's.
And she wanted Molly dead and her grandson back. That's why they set me up for murder. They thought I'd give them up rather than be facing the noose.
Well, why bother setting you up at all? Why not simply torture you for the information?
I think they enjoyed the irony of having me implicated in Joe's murder.
And you still are implicated.
How so? Joe was killed by Molly in self-defense.
You lied to me.
Until you mentioned Joe Murphy's name, everything I told you was the absolute truth. I only lied to save my friend, and lying is not a crime.
You buried a body.
Prove it.
I just might. But until then, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Oh, the Murphys may still have it in for you. You should watch your back.
I will. William,
Yes.
thank you for watching mine.